Hi, my name is Bill Bob. I am a man in long-term recovery, and one of the topics that I was asked to talk about was how would I describe addiction? So to me, addiction is the difference between someone who can engage in uh, having a drink or maybe using substances occasionally, and addiction to me means once a person starts using the substances, they can't control the use of it. Like for me, I was never the person that would go out for one drink, right? I would be there for whatever. Um, and once I started using other substances that had a more immediate effect on my uh, brain levels of dopamine and things like that, I was just totally out of control. I just kept using, and nothing else mattered. And addiction is also a situation where it impairs my judgment. Um, I don't think of anybody but myself. I don't think of anything else but the drug. And when I run out of the drug, whether I can get more drugs than that. And it's also it addiction controlled my life. It made me, as I said before, do things that I normally wouldn't do. I was not present for my family, even when I wasn't using a substance at that particular time. My brain was somewhere else in terms of thinking about the substances. I did poorly at work, and my health started to suffer. So, and that was all because once that substance was in my body, I didn't have control over what I did. I didn't have control over my behavior. I didn't have control over my actions, and it resulted in me causing a lot of damage to myself, but also to my family, and particularly to my wife and my son. So how I broke uh, the pattern of my addiction was to stop using the substances. And then the second thing I had to do was to change my attitudes and behaviors in regards to not only the substances, but in regards to how I dealt with things and people and emotions in my life. Because when I first used the substance the particular substance I used, it numbed me to my feelings, the feelings that I didn't want to deal with, whether they be guilt or being inadequate, not being good enough. Um, and that's what I was looking for. I didn't want to deal with the emotions. So I realized once I started using substances and I couldn't mask those feelings, I had to deal with those feelings. And I often say that my most disconcerting day in recovery was when I realized I didn't have a substance problem. I had a problem with me, with how I dealt with or didn't want to deal with emotions, situations, people, and I had to make a change in my life. I had to change how I did things, how I viewed other people, how I viewed myself. Like I couldn't put um, my feeling of self-worth in the hands of someone else or in the minds of someone else. I always was looking to please someone else and wound up not pleasing myself, and then disliking myself because I was doing things I didn't want to do. And I did that because I wanted other people to like me, and but I would never get enough recognition of that from people, and I would always be wanting more recognition. And once I stopped using substances, I realized I'm powerless not only over the substances, but over other people and how they view me, and that all I could control was my own attitudes and behaviors. And if I felt a certain way, if I felt guilt and remorse over the things I did, the last 5 years of my wife's life, that I didn't have to that I didn't have to use a substance to mask that feeling anymore. I could feel the grief and the sorrow and the remorse because those are normal feelings. And I don't have to hide them. They'll pass. And, that was a big step for me, was realizing that I don't have to mask my feelings and my emotions with the substance. I would want someone to have hope, right? To be hopeful, because I'm not any different than any other person with a substance use disorder. And one of the things that I have hope for in doing this is that when people see this and listen to me talk about addiction, is that they have hope that they can also recover from addiction. Because I've done this, I've recovered from my substance use disorder. I continue to recover on a daily basis, and so can everybody else. No one that has a substance use disorder need ever die from active addiction again, because you can stop using drugs. You can learn to live a new way where drugs and substances don't control your life, and you can have the type of life that you want to have. The hope is that as the longer I go on without using those substances, my brain functions start to return to a normal state, and that I start to be the person that I want to be, not the person that was controlled by substances.